Hello and welcome to exercise 10 of our question and answer series. So we have two questions today. First one is from Lou Dai, who left this question under the overhead squat tutorial video posted up last week. So it's a two-part question. Nice bit, man. I can't do this exercise. Every time I squat down, my hands just move forward and my back is not so straight. If I try to keep it straight and hands behind head, I can't squat deep. I think there lies a mobility problem, right? Question mark. You would be right in your assumption. I would assume without seeing you squat, it's fairly hard to tell exactly what's going wrong without actually seeing you doing it. But going off what you've said, here's some things you might want to try out. So it's probably a mobility flexibility problem, like what I mentioned. And there are four main areas that you might want to look at for an overhead squat. First one is your shoulders and external rotation. So this is an internally rotated shoulder. That is an externally rotated shoulder. That's the position you want to maintain in an overhead squat. So you can challenge this with broomstick or band dislocates, and you can also use paused overhead squats where you're really concentrated on opening up against the weight in the bottom position. I'll leave a few links for some of these drills, or a link for some mobility work that you can follow in the description of this video. And while you're doing the squat, just try to think about keeping the bar in the same place and towards the crown of your head when you're doing it. And the second area you might want to look at is thoracic extension. So just keeping your upper back in this position as opposed to doing this. There's a problem for some people, and it's normally linked to tightness in here, which means you can't externally rotate against the bar properly. You might want to foam roll your upper back, maybe use a peanut or a ball to get in beneath your scapula and around that area to loosen up any tightness before you start overhead squatting. There are also some mobility drills you can do with the roller. Again, I'll leave some links in the description you can have a look at. Mobility in your hips is a pretty big one. So a drill you can use for that is goblet squat, where you hold on a dumbbell or you hold on a weight here and just squat into a full squat and really concentrate on pushing your knees out and pushing your hips in under the bar. It's a really good drill to teach you how to squat and where to put your hips and knees when you squat. And then finally, flexibility at the ankle joint. And that's going to be addressed in the second question in this video, so we'll leave that to then, so I'm not repeating myself. So the second part to Leo's question, I find when I'm doing back squat, not this overhead squat, when the weight's added up, my back starts to round. Now I try to tighten and straighten against it, but the weights fall over my back. Could you help me? This is probably an artifact of you not being able to squat with good mobility and flexibility. It's normally a problem you'll find is whatever's going wrong in your squat, or part of the kinetic chains breaking down, whether it's flexibility in your ankles not being up to scratch, which means you can't push your knees forward, which means you can't sit under the bar, which means your weight's thrown forward. Whether it's you've got really inflexible hamstrings, which causes you to tuck a shitload at the bottom, which again causes you to fall forward. It can be a myriad of things that can stop you from being able to squat properly or do any exercise with the proper technique. And it's normally flexible in mobility. It's not normally a technique issue or a form issue, because it's pretty easy to know what to do, but doing it can be an issue for a lot of people due to flexibility and mobility issues. A great drill that you can use for back squat is pause squat, where you put on a weight, say 60-70% of your 1RM, sit into a really slow eccentric and really try put your knees out over your toes, sit into your heel, sit your hips under the bar, hit a rock bottom squat with it, where you extend against the bar, your torso, your thoracic spine is extended, your lumbar spine is arched, and you got a really nice upright position, and hold that for a good 5 to 10 seconds, and really force yourself into position, and then stand up against the bar. You can do that for sets of 2 to 3 with a nice long pause, say 3 sets of 3 or something like that at the end of a back squat session, or at the start of a back squat session, depending on what you want to work on. I find that drill extremely useful for working position and squat. It's helped me and a lot of our people finding both the best way to drive out of the bottom of a squat, but also it's like an active stretch as the most movement specific stretch you can do for a squat. So pause squats are a great addition to your program. Might be something to help you with your back squat. So if you address all of the issues for your woes squat roll I mentioned, work on your flexibility and mobility, and try some pause squats, and it should really help with what you're struggling with. So second question from Ash Wesley, something fairly similar. Any advice on stretches for improving ankle flexibility to catch snatches with a more upright torso? Ankle flexibility is my most gifted attribute. So the first thing when it comes to ankle flexibility is a pair of weightlifting shoes. Since you're doing snatches, I pretty much assume you already got weightlifting shoes, so this is probably redundant for you. But for anyone watching, weightlifting shoes put you on a heel. What the heel does, the heel inhibits the action of the gastrocnemius, which means you can hinge forward more with the knees. And if you can imagine that you have to sit back with your hips, so your back's like that. That's a big lever arm. And for overhead squats and for snatches, if you have to sit with your hips back, that puts the bar forward, which means you'll lose it when you go down deep. If you can push your knees forward, and that allows you to sit your hips like that under a bar, which means that most of your vectors are all upright, which means you got less got smaller movement arms in the lift, which makes holding the bar overhead much easier. The higher the heel, the more knee travel you can get. So if you've got a pair of shoes that are flat, then it's going to make life overhead very difficult. At least life overhead squat or snatching makes it overly difficult. So if you have a weightlifting shoes already and they've got quite a small heel on them, you might want to try a pair of insoles that will raise the heel up, or you can try to buy a pair of shoes that have a bigger heel, so like the Nike Romeros or Duins, although they're horrible looking, have fairly large heels. So that's maybe something you want to look at. Maybe you know someone who's a pair of Duins, or you know someone who has a pair of Nike Romeros you could have a shot at, and that should help. See if that's something you might want to invest in. Outside of that, good stretches for an upright torso with a snatch, drop snatch paused, overhead squat paused. The bar stretches you can do for your ankles, again I'll link some of these in the description so you can have a shot of them. Stretching the crap out of your tibialis anterior, stretching your gastrocnemius, all of these things will help, but stretching is a long-term solution and will take time to work on, and something you should be doing anyway if you're doing Olympic lifting. But yeah, if you've not got a pair of shoes, then that's probably your problem. That's the problem right there. Buy a pair of shoes and sort it out instantly. Or maybe you haven't got a big enough heel, so you might want to look at insoles or a bigger heel shoe. Hope that answers your questions, Ash. That concludes episode 10. Any questions, shoot me an email, leave it in the comments on my videos. I'll try to get back to everybody as quick as I can. So until next time, see you later.